Worship Sunday. That was Zach Swellbar. He's on staff here. Chandler Hoffert, who leads worship for Christ in Youth Conferences around the country, some local churches. He's amazing as well. Sam, our drummer that drums with us all the time, but phenomenal musician. Brendan and Kayla Gage. Kayla is my niece who's a professional flautist. I assume that's how you pronounce it. And Brendan's a professional jazz pianist. And so with all those people on stage, a whole bunch of 20-somethings, and I have never heard you as a church sing as much as you did last week. It was phenomenal. So good job for you guys. And again, we have great worship around here. That was just something unique for us. Now, we've been doing this series about questions that our friends may have about their faith. And there are hundreds of questions out there, right? I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. But one of the most basic questions that we have to ask is this: does the Bible have the answers to those questions? Because without some place to go for the answers, we're all guessing, right? We're all just making stuff up. We're all just going from personal life experience. Does the Bible have the answers? And for us to get to that moment, to understand that, for me, it came down to I had to figure out, where did the Bible come from? I had to figure out what it's all about. I had to figure out why I should even trust it. Because if it's true, if the Bible is true, then it's the only place that we should be looking for answers. But instead, we're kind of looking everywhere as a culture. I know sometimes we think we can do things on our own, right? Most of us are kind of in that camp. Most of us are, hey, listen, I'm falling down. I can pick myself back up. I can do it on my own. I can make it on my own. I need a couple of friends to help me, but I'm good. I mean, I'm really, really good. But there's always some ingredient that you feel like is left out of your life. Like you got most of it together, but there's just something, some ingredient that if we had it, we know we could be better. We know we could do more. We know that life could be so much more significant and back on track. Any of you guys like to cook? Raise your hands. Anybody here like to cook? Wow. A lot of y'all eat out, don't you? That's what you do. I get it. My mom was a great cook. I mean, I say that knowing a lot of great cooks. She was a great cook. Everything she made was homemade. It was from scratch. Everything. Cookies, noodles, rolls. She was the woman that would boil the potatoes, peel the potatoes, use 3 full sticks of real butter to make the mashed potatoes, all kinds of real salt, just stuff that tasted amazing. And then she made these things called riblets. Now, that doesn't mean anything to you. It was only probably a thing in my house when I was growing up. It's kind of like these dumplings that are kind of balls of dough that you cook in beef broth, that you make with roast beef and mashed potatoes, that are every one of my friends that ever had those were hooked. I mean, they're just amazing kind of things. And I want to go get some right now, by the way. But just so you know, that's just amazing kind of stuff. Here was the problem. My mom was a great cook, but she didn't write anything down. You know cooks like that? Oh, we need a little more of this or a little bit of that. I'm going to throw some of this in there. And everything she made tasted so amazing, but she had no idea what she did. She just did it. She just threw it together, hoping that it would all work out. And it always worked out. Now, I kind of like to cook sometimes, but I have trouble with no recipes, right? Like I can throw stuff together and I can use some of my mom's basics and I can put some good meals together. But sometimes it's great and sometimes it ends up in the trash before we even eat it. You know, that's just kind of the way it goes for me. So my wife comes in last week with a big box. It had just got delivered to our doorstep, and she set it down in front of me. I said, "What's that?" She said, "This is for you. This is from Hello Fresh." Includes directions and recipes. Here's what she said to me. You just follow what it says and we'll be good. And then she followed that statement up with this. Oh, by the way, I bought it, you get to cook it. Our online sound is down. My wife doesn't cook. She's not going to hear this. She's not going to know. She was watching from home today. She's not going to know I just said that. She won't cook. But she did buy the box for me to cook, so there you go. No, did she make it? I love you, honey. Yeah, thanks. There's no recovering from that. I am cooking forever now, so just so you know. Can somebody do a marriage counseling session with us? The HelloFresh stuff is good stuff. You just follow the directions. All the components are there in the bag, right? Comes in several bags, like paper bags, and all the food is in there. Potatoes are in there. The meat is in there. The cheese is in there. The spices are in little packets, and they're in there. The directions. It's on a card about this big for every meal that you want to cook with the stuff you get. I can read them without glasses on. They've covered every angle with this stuff. You know, the directions are, you follow the directions, everything turns out great. Now, let me relay that to real life. That's how it works with the Bible, too. God has given us the components for a great life. And then he gave us the recipe book to follow. That's the Bible, so that our lives can keep on track, so that we can keep moving forward in positive, good, healthy kind of ways. That's how it works. Now, I got to tell you, our lives, most of our lives are messed up in some way, right? That's true with all of us. So if you're going to look around at this room, everyone in this room has some challenges because we've tried to do things on our own. We've tried to do things with our understanding and our way and our time, try to handle situations and issues with the ways that we think are best. We'll try a little bit of this and we'll try a little bit of that and we'll mix everything together, and then we wonder why our lives are upside down because we forgot to go back to the recipe book. We forgot to follow those recipes. How about we start with the recipe book, which is the Bible? How about we start there? And then we do life based on what it tells us to do. Like these HelloFresh meals are really good. But if you follow the directions, they're good. If I choose to go away from the directions, who knows what may happen? My wife may be cooking. I don't know. Who knows what may happen with that? Do any of you have a Bible? I want to see. If you have a Bible, raise your hand. If you have one at home. Yeah, you don't have to have it with you, just one at home. Anybody use a Bible on your phone or online? Some of you do that. How many Bibles do some of you have? Bob Sisson, are you in here? How many Bibles do you have, Bob? 42. He's got one for all of you, all right? Everyone in the room, he's got one. Yeah, and how many people have 3 Bibles? 4 Bibles. Keep your hands up. 5 Bibles. 6. Okay, all right. Sean, I'm impressed. Do you read it, though? That's the question, right? Do you read the Bibles that you have? We can have a lot of Bibles. Here, let me. Anybody here not have a Bible? If you don't, you may not want to raise your hand. I'll buy you one, right? See me after service. I'll go and buy you a Bible if you don't have one. I'll pay for that. I'll give that to you because you really need to have one of those around the place where you live. Now, let's talk about this. Some of you have been in church for a long, long time. What are some of your favorite accounts from the Bible? Like the Bible stories that you really, really like. So, now remember, it's hard for me to hear up here. Somebody shout one out that's your favorite. Water at the well. The woman at the well? Okay. Joseph and the coat of many colors. That's a powerful one. That really, and not to mention the woman at the well, incredibly. Esther. Somebody said that in the 9 o'clock service too. That's good. Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. Anybody know who they are? They're in the fire. That's right. That's good. Someone else. Jonah and the whale. That's a great one. I mean, it really, really is. Now, here's my question to you. Are those true? Are they? How do you know that? How can you prove that? How do you know that these guys are standing in the fire? How do you know that? How do you know that a guy gets swallowed by a whale? How do you know that? How do you know that that's true? How do you know that Joseph was a real person and that his dad gave him a coat of many colors and kind of neglected the other sons in the family? How do you know that? Listen, you got a guy getting swallowed by a whale and surviving 3 days. That's a little hard to believe, isn't it? You have a guy parting the Red Sea, holding up a stick, sea parts. It's kind of hard to believe, isn't it? There are lots of people looking for truth in our culture. Maybe more people today than ever before in history. And Americans, we spend over $200 million a year on Bibles because we want to know, is there anything in there I can trust? Does it show me how to live? Does it show me how to love? Does it show me where to find some hope and where to find some peace? Now, when it comes to the Bible, you know this, there's a lot of critics, and rightfully so. The problem is with most of the critics, they haven't read the Bible enough to really know what they're asking. And if they had read it, they might be able to find the answers for themselves. Larry King interviewed Bill Maher, talk show host, comedian, hates Christianity. Someone called in and asked, why is it that you're always making fun of religious people? And he does. That's kind of one of his sticks. He said, I don't respect religion. I don't respect superstitious thinking, which is what religion is. I don't respect childish thinking, which is what religion is. He said, today's most controversial moral issues wouldn't even be an issue except for what it says in the Bible. I'm going to stop right there for a minute. What a powerful statement. Today's most controversial issues wouldn't be an issue except for what it says in the Bible. Maybe that should give us some more hope to go and read the Bible to find out why those things are controversial, what God actually says. He goes on to say, the Bible, the book that has people living to be 900 years old and says that the world is 6,000 years old and that there are people who lived in a whale, that infallible work of genius that says that slavery is okay and it's okay to stone a guy to death if he works on Sunday. I'm sorry, I don't respect people who believe in religion. So what if he's right? What if the critics are right? What if the Bible is just a bunch of made-up stuff? What if we've been following the wrong recipe book? What would that look like? Again, I'm going to go back to my statement a second ago. I wish people who want to criticize the Bible would go and read the Bible more and make sure it's saying what they're criticizing it for. We did that whole series at the beginning of this year talking about some of those critiques that people give of the Bible, and that's a powerful series. But the Bible never claims the world is only 6,000 years old. Some Christ followers claim that, and some Christ followers claim that it's not. You can go either way on that. Doesn't hinder my belief system in Jesus. But I can see where you could go either direction on that. But the Bible doesn't say it. That's you interpreting what you think it says. There are a lot of Christ followers who go, yeah, but I really base my whole life on that. That's okay. You can base your faith on something that you believe the Bible says. That's good. That's strong. That can keep you surging for answers and claims that are out there. But the Bible never says that slavery is okay either. The Bible does say if you're in that scenario, that situation, here's how you respond and react. There are people that misuse the Bible all the time to say what they want to say, but that doesn't mean the Bible says it, right? It just means that's what somebody wants the Bible to say. When the Bible does say something about how we're living, then maybe we really need to take notice of that. Look at Acts 10:15. A voice spoke to him a second time, do not call anything impure that God has made clean. So in Acts 10, you see this sheet coming down, and there are certain foods that you weren't allowed to eat in the Old Testament that God now makes okay in the New Testament. Things like bacon. You couldn't eat that in the Old Testament. Couldn't eat it. How about sausage? Nope. Ham? No chance. All right? Breakfast was a whole lot more boring in the Old Testament than it is today. Just saying. Right? The Bible doesn't, and then in Acts 10, bacon is good. You can eat that. Everything changes. So we're good to have breakfast now. It's my favorite meal of the day. And then you look at the Bible doesn't say that Jonah was swallowed by a whale. You know what it says? A great fish. There are no whales in the Mediterranean. So it wasn't a whale. Now, that's not a big difference, right? But if you're going to criticize the Bible, at least get your facts straight. Because that's not what it says. And then it says, well, a guy was swallowed. He lived in the whale for 3 days, and then he came out again. That's just not right. I mean, do you really expect me to believe that? That's not going to happen naturally. And that's the point. It's not natural. Dr. Tim Harlow says that's why we call it supernatural. When God does something because it's outside of nature. Know somebody else that was 3 days in a tomb and rose again? Yeah, that's not natural. Nobody else has done that, right? That's supernatural. That's a miracle. Those are the moments that happen. Those aren't the everyday occurrences, but they're supernatural to happen. The Bible talks about a lot of those kinds of things. Again, I know that the Bible has been used by bad people to do bad things, but that's not God's fault and that's not the Bible's fault. That's our fault. Because we wanted to say something that it probably doesn't say. God gave us the Bible as a love letter to let us know how much He cares about us. John 20:31 says, but these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in His name. It all comes down to your belief system. You're never going to be able to prove the Bible. I don't care how scholarly you are. I don't care how many school classes you take. I don't care how many people you sit under and learn from. You will never be able to prove to someone that doesn't want to believe that the Bible is true, that the Bible is true. But the things are written so that we may believe in Jesus. That's why the Bible was written. It all comes down to your faith. You're going to believe by faith or you're not going to believe by faith. It's how it comes down. I know some parts of the Bible are hard to read. Anybody read through the book of Numbers? Whoo! Unless you're Shelley Mosteller, you get nothing out of that, right? She's great at that, by the way. She really is. You know, some parts are easy. Some parts are good. Some parts capture your attention and your imagination. Let me give you a few reasons for me why I believe in the Bible. And I had to do this early on in my faith journey because it wasn't easy for me to do this. There's evidence out there that's it's documentation evidence. 66 books in the Bible. I had to be able to go back and see if I could actually say, do these books belong there, right? Are they historical? Are there other documents outside of these documents, outside of the Bible, that kind of prove that these are here to back them up? And when you do that, you go, yeah, there actually are. There are 24,000 manuscripts of the New Testament alone. Word for word. 24,000 manuscripts. We don't have the originals of any of the books that were written, but we can get to about 20 years after they were written for some of the manuscripts that we have. 20 years. That's pretty good, right? When you put all the thousands of copies of the books together, and they're almost word for word what each of the other 24,000 says. That's pretty good, guys. I mean, that's better than pretty good. There are over 5,000 copies of the New Testament manuscripts written in Greek, 10,000 written in Latin, 8,000 written in other languages like Ethiopian, Slavic, Armenian. So 24,000 copies of the New Testament that are centuries old. And the amazing thing is, right, 99.9% is exactly the same, word for word. That is incredible. It really is. And the 0.1% that's not exactly the same doesn't change any of the major teachings in the Bible. They're just some words that are different. You know, the next closest ancient manuscripts we have, the writings that we have, are from Plato. And if you look up Plato on the internet and you want to see his writings, the closest copy we have to the original is 1,000 years after he wrote it. And we're 20 years away? That's significant. 185,000 words in the New Testament and only 400 that have any discrepancies. And none of those are major discrepancies. They're just words. And then you have some archaeological evidence as well. Let me just say, the Bible's not intended to be a history book, but it does prove history, right? Luke 3:1 says this: in the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar, when Pontius Pilate was governor of Judea, Herod Tetrarch, his brother Philip Tetrarch, Licinius Tetrarch, a list of people. All those people have been proven to be real. You can go back and search history, and you can find those people in history. Every detail is proven. The Hittites are talked about a lot in the Old Testament because God's people were up against the Hittites in battles and challenges quite a bit. And people were saying, well, the Bible's not true because you can't find the Hittite nation anywhere. About 100 years ago, in 1906, they dug up an entire Hittite city. An entire city. Kind of disproved the people that were criticizing the Bible for not being real because the Hittites ended up being real. Every time they claim the Bible isn't real because we haven't found evidence, evidence tends to get dug up that proves that it is real. How about King David? One of the biggest heroes of the Bible, right? Never any proof that he existed until they dug up a stone in 1993 that says, King of Israel, House of David, which proved who David was, that he actually did exist, that the Bible is true in that way. Now, Israel's one of those places where you dig a hole in your backyard and you're digging down through centuries of former civilizations. So anything is possible to be found. In the book of John, it says it was written after most of the Gospels because it mentions things like the pool of Bethesda. Now, that was a pool where people came to be healed, right? And they're going, well, that's just added in there later because it's not real. The pool of Bethesda wasn't real until they dug up the pool of Bethesda, proving that John's writings were real. They dug up a few years ago James, the brother of Jesus, burial box. Now, that's a big deal because why would you say you're the brother of Jesus unless Jesus was a big deal? And James, the brother of Jesus. That's huge. Look at the Pontius Pilate stone. This proves that Pontius Pilate was real. And the Bible talks about him a lot as we get closer to the end of Jesus' life. Nelson Block says this: it may be categorically stated that no archaeological discovery has ever contradicted a biblical reference. None. They keep digging things up. They keep proving the Bible. There's also prophetic evidence. 60 prophecies about Jesus. He'd be born in Bethlehem. He'll be between two thieves, born of a virgin, rise from the dead. They'd gamble for his clothes, 30 pieces of silver, that he would be buried in a borrowed tomb, all those things. And you're going, yeah, come on, Scott. They just added those in later until this little boy in the desert was throwing rocks and threw one into a cave and heard some shattering pottery, and they went up and discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls. Show this next picture. That has the complete Old Testament word for word for what's in your Bible in these ancient manuscripts. That's significant. That's important. It was important for me anyway. I get the fact that there's a lot of proof that the Bible has documentation and archaeological and prophetic proof out there. But what does that mean to me? I mean, really, what does that mean? I get it, okay, the Bible's true, but why? Does it mean anything in my life? I mean, I'm not sure I could open the Bible and find anything if I needed it. And you know when you need to open the Bible and find things that you need is when you're going through crisis, when your life is falling apart, when your marriage has failed, when money is an issue. You go, Scott, I don't know how to find any of those things. Well, you could go to your online, to the technology that you have close to you, and you could go, well, how do I look that up? Well, you go to the YouVersion Bible app, and there's a search bar, and you could look something up there. You're going, that's too much work. Okay. Hey, Siri, what does the Bible say about love? Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not self-seeking. Love does not envy. It does not pursue selfish advantage. You want to know why our relationships in our current culture are so messed up? Because we've gotten away from the recipe book that God gave us. When was the last time in your relationship you focused on anything other than the physical, which is what our culture bases love on? Physical relationship, physical relationship, physical relationship, affair after affair after affair, because they're physical. How about being patient with each other? How about being kind with each other? How about not being rude to each other? How about not pursuing what you want, but pursuing what your spouse wants? You know how to build a marriage? There it is. It comes from the recipe book. Hey, Siri, what does the Bible have to say about anger? Be angry and do not sin. Ouch. How do you do that? Well, let's keep looking. Refrain from anger and forsake wrath. Okay? It tends to only lead to evil. A soft answer turns away wrath, but harsh words stir up anger. For the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. Listen, you want to know how to get out of your anger? Why don't you go back to the original recipe book? Why don't you look up what God says about it, how it destroys you from the inside out, how to look at people in a loving way, in a peaceful way, instead of an angry way. You want to know why the Bible is so significant? It's significant because it has the answers as to how to live. You're not going to find that when you're sitting down talking to your friends. You might get some good wisdom and some great direction, but if it's not based on what the Bible says, your life is going to be more messed up than it is now. You can go to all the online gossip stuff. Well, my friend's doing this, and my friend lives that way, and my friend lives this way, and because my friends do it, it's okay for me to do it. Are your friends happy? Are your friends healthy? Maybe. Maybe they got the recipe right. Maybe they threw in a few things that tasted good. But listen, why not trust the original recipe book to bring you back to where you need to be? Every question that you have in your life, in wealth, in money, in finances, in jobs, in brokenness, in recovery, in how to deal with, it's all there. And it's not hard to find it. You just have to choose to base your life on what God tells you. And then life gets so much better. Not worrying about the rest. Will you pray with me? Father God, I pray for everyone in this room. And God, everyone watching online, if the sound is currently working, God, I pray blessings on them. And God, may we learn where to turn for advice and wisdom. God, may we learn that you've given us the recipe to live this life out to the fullest. And God, may we follow those recipes.